It is July 29th, ladies and gentlemen. July 29th. Still, we have not heard anything about any arrests. Nobody has gotten arrested, but somebody is no longer living with us. We don't know. Nolan Wells was an 18-year-old college football player, even though he went to a local community college. Nevertheless, he was an athlete, a minority amongst white people. He decided to go party on the 4th of July, being a minority, trusting those folk, even though not all skin folk is kinfolk, he still decided to put them trust in those people. And whatever he did caused them to be deleted, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's go straight into the facts because a lot of people they want to talk about emotion, they want to race bait, they want to make this white versus black. But in reality, all we need to talk about is what transpired, what happened to Nolan Wells. Because it can be your own people to take you out. Let's set this clear. Just because you share the same skin color as me doesn't mean that you share the same interests as me. So, because Obama's black doesn't mean that we have to go vote for Obama. Because this person pulls you over and he's a black cop doesn't mean that black cop very well may screw you over. But let's go to the content. Nolan Wells was an 18-year-old Southwest Mississippi community college football player who mysteriously whose mysterious death on Horn Island, Mississippi, has drawn intense national media attention and an ongoing multi-agency investigation. I mean, Ben Crump is involved, and as they should, because if it wasn't for those individuals that's involved in this case, we probably wouldn't even know who Nolan Wells is. On the 4th of July 2026, Wells traveled by boat with a group of friends to Horn Island, a secluded barrier island off the Mississippi coast. His friends returned to the mainland without him. Some accounts state Wells voluntarily stayed behind the island to speak with a girl he met that day. Now, as we know it, the girl that they're referring to, her name is Katie McCormick. Now, her story actually changed. Initially, they said that Nolan Wells was left with the girl. But after speaking to the girl, they're talking about he went off on the boat. So now we're getting two stories. The stories are not adding up. 2 days later, July 6th, he partied July 4th. They found him 2 days later, face down in the shoreline waters on the island. Here's another lie that we have to debunk. They said they found Nolan Wells fully clothed, but pictures are displaying him shirtless. Once again, they said that he was fully clothed, shirts and swimming trunks, but pictures are only seeing him shirtless. So what happened? Who took off his clothes? Google saying the official autopsy, even though we never got the first autopsy. How does that even make sense? We're talking about the second autopsy without addressing the first one, but the official Mississippi State Medical Examiner autopsy toxicology reports remain pending. Now, that toxicology report is going to show a lot. It's going to show what Nolan consumed. It's going to show everything in the blood. The blood does not lie. The blood will tell you everything you need to know about that person. That toxic, when that report comes out, it's going to debunk a lot of lies that's being portrayed on the internet. The local authorities initially suspected accidental drowning. The man's lungs and his hyoid bone, which is in the throat, was missing. Now, why is his throat and why is his lungs missing, ladies and gentlemen? A private autopsy commissioned by civil rights attorney Ben Crump. Regardless of how you feel about Ben Crump, the man is representing Nolan Wells, and he's bringing national attention, almost global attention, to this case. A recent Surface Marine Patrol emailed that the witnesses described Wells' alcohol intake as a heavy on the day vanish. Now, that's what they're pushing right now, ladies and gentlemen. They're saying that Nolan Wells was consuming heavy alcohol, and that's what caused his death. Now, let's go into the content. As of today, Nolan Wells is now suing the friends and the parents of the friends of Nolan Wells. It's official. The firm and co-counsel represent the parents of Nolan Xavier Wells, deceased. We are investigating Nolan's death, which occurred in the early days of July 2026 on or in the vicinity of Horn Island, Mississippi. Please address all future communications regarding matter to me and my co-counsel. If you are represented by counsel, please forward this letter to your attorney. Something that I also saw today, ladies and gentlemen, in the interview that Officer Tatum had with Nolan Wells' friend Bart, that interview was very suspect. If your best friend passed away, why would you go on an interview talking to a YouTuber such as Officer Tatum, talking about Nolan Wells wasn't even fully black? He's mixed with Asian. That's irrelevant. But he's trying to throw Nolan Wells underneath the bus because he's getting called for his black card. So now a man that can't defend himself, he is talking about why is the black community supporting Nolan Wells if he's not even fully black? Can you believe that? So he's on the hot seat. But let me read this and we go straight to the content. There was a picture circulating this morning of Bart from high school with a young woman. Bart is now 21 and in college. In other words, this picture is old. People are asserting that the young man in the picture is, I don't know why that's blurred out, named Katie McCormick. I don't know why that's blurred out right there, but y'all see it. I'm going to skip to the next paragraph. The person in the circulating photograph with a much younger Bart is not Katie McCormick. We can say that definitely not because Bart has a relationship with Miss McCormick, but because Bart knows exactly who the person photographed is. So with anyone who attended high school with them, out of respect of her privacy, we are not going to identify by her name. Bart is not now, nor has he ever been in a relationship with Katie McCormick. So that's what they was saying. They're saying that the fight that took place on Horn Island, that the video was circulating all over the internet, they assume it was Nolan, but in reality it was Bart. They're saying the fight was over Katie, saying that Nolan is getting Bart sloppy seconds. Bart's coming home from college. He's potentially going to go to the NFL. Comes home to celebrate with his friends and family, 4th of July weekend. Finds out that Nolan Wells is dating his ex. So Bart took him out feeling some type of way. That's what they're talking about. I have video that I want to play back in that claim up. These are all accusations because the court of law, the judicial system, they haven't came up with a conclusion. So all over the internet and all over social media platforms, you have people talking about Nolan Wells as they should. Let me be abundantly clear. Bart did not delete or in any way contribute to the tragic death of Nolan Wells. He had no motive to do so. All he did was help a boat that was in distress. He was fully and freely corroborated with authorities, shared every bit of information he knows, providing access to his boat, his GPS, and his phone, and sharing witnesses list with investigators. What I don't like about the story that Bart confessed is that the man said that he was asleep because he was too faded and woke up 10 a.m. the next day to look for Nolan. And his alibi was that he was with his uncle. Do y'all call cap? Do y'all call cap in the building? Ladies and gentlemen, if I am best friends of someone and I'm talking about that person, especially that is so fresh, I mean, it's still within the month of July, I'm going to be extremely emotional that my best friend passed away and I had control somewhat to contribute to him still being alive. But Bart, his friends that was interviewing with Officer Tatum, they was ice cold. They had ice in their veins and they didn't blink an eye. No crocodile tears, nothing. So if you truly love someone as they claim, talking about Nolan was his best friend, this, that, and the third, I think that's cap, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to the call.
We're just thinking, I don't know, like we're going down.
All right, well, let's get you going. Membership number or phone number?
I don't know the phone number. It's either Jerry Atkerson. I think it's Jerry Atkerson. Try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership like guaranteed. I don't have the tag
unless
on
you
here.
have a membership number or anything, it's okay. I'll get you over to the captain. What's the best phone number to reach you at? All right. And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's
How many? All right. Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
What?
Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
No, we do not need that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Do you have your current GPS coordinates?
Let me go look.
If not, I can send you a text message.
North. All right, are you ready?
Yes, sir. I'm available.
North 30 degrees, but 4672.
All right, 4672. All right, and you were breaking up a little bit. Can you just repeat it one more time to make sure I have it correct?
Sorry, look.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what?
So you're breaking up. If you need assistance, do you have a VHF radio?
Yeah, we do not have the VHF radio.
All right, well, let's try to get you going because you don't have good cell phone reception. Can you verify your coordinates one more time?
Okay, my coordinates are 30 degrees by 14.684 north, and then west by 88 degrees by 46.79.
Right, it looks like you're on Horn Island, correct? Are you
Yes,
on
we are
Horn
at Horn
Island?
Island. Yes.
All right, is the...
On that, he was killed. But I'm a judge that has to weigh all the evidence. Preliminarily, that's what I see. You don't leave your friend on an island, seeing that he has left his phone, and not at least go back. You came there with him. You left him there, you say, because he wanted to stay. But you notice that he's left his phone. How was he going to get home in the first place? Wouldn't he need his phone in order to call his transportation? Or they should have known some of that. He would have said, I'm going to get home by such and such way. When you, hey man, I'm not coming. Y'all go ahead. I got a young lady. Okay, man. Is she going to bring you home? How you going to get home? You don't ask any of those questions? So you must have asked those questions. If you didn't, that's more evidence that I believe contributed to the reasonable suspicion. So I'm with the prosecutor. How about that so far? So you won't have to say that the judge is making conclusions without getting the evidence. The prosecutor has found enough evidence to create a reasonable suspicion that a crime occurred. And now they're going to interview everybody and come up with. So I'm there with the prosecutor so far. Take it to the grand jury. Now I have to wait until what the grand jury comes back with before I support any charge or any lack of charges.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Judge Mathis, that is who you're hearing on the screen. That is him giving his personal take on what transpired with Nolan Wells, stating that his phone, keys, phone call, there's too many red flags, bruh. And initially, I see the game, they were trying to make it a race war. These cases expose the hidden racism that is within a lot of people. So I saw what time it is. I'm not going to use a man to talk about racism, but when I saw the results of the second autopsy, and the man's lungs and throat is missing, I thought, nah, that's cap. Nah, his throat is missing, ladies and gentlemen. Now, why would his hyoid bone that's in the throat, why would that be missing? Why would the lungs? Because they're trying to hide something, that's why. So now I'm fully invested, because how are you going to send an autopsy without a throat and a stomach? What? Let's listen to the clip of Mr. Tatum being a COON defending Nolan Wells' friends. But first, he was responding to D.L. Hoogley. D.L. Hoogley, that you're about to listen here shortly, responds to Mr. Coon Tatum.
To the picture of me and my wife. To do what? To be a racist? You are the lamest dude in all of comedy.
What is more lame than calling yourself the job you used to have? You're not an officer anymore. You were a football player who failed at being a football player. You didn't make the team, so you became an officer. That wasn't working out, so you became an influencer. You talked about emotion. What is more emotional than this?
The word.
You cried for a white dude who the people didn't even think you worthy to speak at his funeral. You said you wouldn't cry for your son, but you cried for him. That's not emotion? You talked up the way Benjamin Crump talks.
Just want to blame white folks. And so I go out there because I know that lame Al Sharpton and Mr. I can't read Benjamin Crump is just race hustling, y'all.
For sure, ladies and gentlemen, Ben Crump cannot read. Did you hear him read that autopsy? Why would why would they put the lawyer reading off an autopsy like it's the NFL draft? They should have had the medical examiner read off the results. The man sounded like he was on Hooked on Phonics, bro. That was a poor representation of the case. Now, with that being said, at least we got an autopsy, because leave it up to the first one, we would have never got it. But when I'm trying to put two and two together, why is the neck missing? Why is the hyoid bone missing from the throat? And why is the lungs missing? Crazy word.
Talked about how those boys are innocent. You had proof. Now, I don't know whether they're innocent or not. I don't know what happened there. But I know one conversation with a failed football player and a social media influencer is not the predicate. You don't have any toxicology report. You don't have an autopsy report. You talked about black people acting a fool. Black people are right to be suspicious of a state.
100%. And, you know, we're not trying to make this white versus black. We're just trying to find out what happened to Nolan Wells. A lot of people are talking about stay away from the white man. Well, if you really feel that way, then don't go to your 9 to 5. Go to Africa. Go where predominantly there's black people. Talking about stay away from the white man. Oh my God. We're not living in 1924. I don't have to drink at a water fountain that says only blacks. I don't have to use a restroom where it says only for whites only. We're not living in those times. So don't listen to these content creators telling you to stay away from the white man. They're evil. What? Stop the cap. Now, do they have a history? Absolutely. Everyone has a history. Find out about Japan, the rising sun. Do y'all know the flag, Japan? Those boys were goons. Everybody got a crazy history. Thank God that we are living in 2026 and we don't have to go through what our ancestors did. What a time to be alive. No soy dominicano, pero ya tú sabes.
That took 31 years and 3 trials to prosecute and find guilty the murder of Medgar Evers. Black people are right to be suspicious of a state.
With that being said as well, you can't tell the people take the results of the autopsy without the throat and the lungs and the body and accept the people to accept that. First of all, this has been going on since the 4th of July, so why is it taking so long? Rent's around the corner. What, rent is this upcoming Saturday, and I know y'all gonna take 3 to 5 days to pay that. Hard I hear for a pimp when you're trying to make the money for the rent. The money for the rent, I butchered that. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been the whole month of July. Now let it be your own. If it was Officer Tatum's own, God forbid, he wouldn't be pandering to Nolan Wells' friends, but because that's his community, that's how he gets the bag, that's who he wants to pander to. But what if it was one of his own in that situation, in replacement of Nolan Wells? Would he still be sweet and going to interview the friends of Nolan, going on the island talking about, you see all this land out here? Would he be so open? See, that's the thing. You got to put yourself in a situation of that victim. That's the only way you can understand. People think, it's not that serious, but God forbid, what if it was one of your own or your friend or somebody who you knew? Would you keep that same energy protecting Nolan Wells' friends? Absolutely not, you wouldn't. So why did they pay you underneath the table, Mr. Tatum? Crazy work.
That in 2005 found 215 black people that were dead and buried in a pauper's grave and nobody knew they were there. Black people are right to be suspicious of a state that just killed a 1-year-old boy and nobody's being brought to account about. Black people are right to be suspicious of a state that has been poisoning black people with the water since the 1960s. Black people didn't look for this fight. They want justice.
And then you know what's crazy? People say, oh man, black fatigue. Black people are always whining and complaining about everything. Ladies and gentlemen, let's switch roles of skin complexion. If Nolan Wells was white, and I know y'all heard that before, if he was a lighter skin complexion, would the case been solved already?
Justice. All they want is accountability. And if it's those boys, it should be that. Nobody has a predetermined notion. I don't know what happened. But if you're saying that that Al Sharpton and that Benjamin Crump are on one side, you're certainly on the other. You talk to them for 2 days and now all of a sudden you know if they're guilty. You know if they're innocent. You know that. Your name is, your moniker is Officer Tatum, not Detective Tatum. You didn't make your way to detective. You're an influencer who says what white people want you to say. And don't you find it interesting that they chose to speak to you, and they chose to speak to you for the same reason that you're a conservative, for the same reason Turning Point did, because you're safe. They know you're a black man who'll do what he's told. You're an unremarkable black man who they know they can count on to be obedient. They pick you for the same reason they pick dogs. What is very interesting to me is this is Nancy Grace.
I left to believe that he goes out swimming all on his own, and the friend girl leaves, the mates from school leave, everybody just leaves him out in the water and he dies.
Now, Nancy Grace is a career prosecutor. She has tried 100 felony trials, 100, and not lost one. And she thinks that's something suspicious. But the social media influencer who failed at football and was a mediocre cop all of a sudden knows more than that. I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. But I do know this. You said that a young woman with a...
Oh man, I saw the funniest comment. I haven't seen a funnier comment like this in a while, bro. Oh my goodness, bro. Yo, appreciate the laugh, man, because in this state right now, it's always good to laugh. So Melky Rose says, if he was white, the parents would accept the results of the investigation and not accuse people of racism. I know you don't believe what you just typed. Do you know there's such thing as Karens, right? Karens will report you for anything. Anything. And you talking about the same Karen that will report you for anything is going to just accept the role that their child is no longer living when they initially was partying on the 4th of July, but the autopsy results come back with missing lungs. The boy doesn't have a throat in the autopsy. And the first autopsy has not been released by the medical examiner. So imagine you being the parent of your child that is no longer breathing with no lungs in the boy's chest, no higher bone in the boy's throat, and you're supposed to accept that. Stop the cap, bruh. Hell nah. People do more for way less. We're talking about a life here. You talking about the parents is going to accept the role that their child is gone? And nobody saw the boy gone either. No witnesses. 1,000 plus people on the island and nobody saw what happened? Stop the cap. Thanks for the laugh, though.
Out of water, acted so suspiciously that she should be shot by cops.
I think that this is justified, but it could have been avoided, but still justified. You can't throw boiling water on a police officer and not get shot.
But you don't think people that were on a boat with somebody, in proximity to somebody, and that person comes that day, acting so suspicious, they should be questioned? That's who you are. Debate you for what? What you are is what the people before you, you're Diamond and Silk, you're Candace Owens, you're Stacey Dash, you're that. And your career will age like avocados, because that's what they do. There'll be somebody else that replaces you. I've been around for 40 years doing what I do, and you still know my name. You know how I got to know yours? Somebody sent me a coon alert. They said,
Ooh, man, ladies and gentlemen, one thing we cannot do is sell out just to get the bag. Stand in your truth. There's all type of ways to get the dollar bill, but to sell out, especially your own people, to get currency is crazy work. Tatum flew out, actually did his due diligence by doing the journalist, by traveling to um, Horns Island, and through his investigation, he has exposed the friends, which I don't think they should have even spoken to Officer Tatum because they made the situation worse by incriminating themselves in the middle of a case. Why on God's green earth would you talk on the internet about a case when it's still going on? Is it because they're protected because they got parents in the courtroom and government officials and they feel untouchable? Or are they truly innocent and is Nolan Wells just some freak accident? I don't think so, though. And you can't blame the people for assuming because it's been 3 weeks now and still there is no arrest, there is no conclusion of what transpired. But let it be your own traveling to an island on 4th of July and then the body gets washed up. So let's go to the stories. How is the body washed up if he was on a boat? Well, he was never on a boat. But by Katie McCormick, the last woman that he was with, the last entity, the last person that Nolan Wells was with, Katie said that he left on a boat. So we need to question Katie. Where did Katie go after she was entertaining Nolan? So there's just two stories not matching up. The boy was found shirtless, but they said that he was fully clothed, but pictures are saying that he was shirtless. Come on now, stop the cap.
And you fit the bill. I don't know who you are, but I know what you are. I know what you do because I've seen people like you in my entire life. You can assail my career, but my career is longer than your life. You mentioned my name and I have no idea who you are. But I do know this, that one day when all of this is done, and it'll be after the next election cycle, when people are wondering who you are, when you go the way of the Larry Elders or the Sheriff Clarks or the Candace Owens or the Diane.
Oh my goodness. So he's referring to the people that sold out. Now, these people that he's calling out, they got the bag. But what good is it to gain riches but lose your soul, ladies and gentlemen? Now, we're going to talk about the Candace Owens tape. She's talking about Charlie Kirk, of course, still. But right now it's about Nolan Wells. This just happened on the 4th of July. And if this was my friend, I wouldn't leave him behind. Now, if my friend is with a little, you know what I'm saying, some, okay. So you left your friend with Katie. So let's talk to Katie. Katie's talking about he was on a boat. The stories are not adding up. See, things are very simple, but for some reason, it's so complicated. Why? Why is it so complicated? Nobody saw Nolan, even though there was 1,000 plus people on that island. Too many inconsistencies. Then we hear this new audio of the man crying in distress. And in the background of the audio, you hear people on the boat talking about shut up. Now, was he talking about shut up so he can talk to the 911 dispatcher clearly? Or was he telling his friends to shut up in the background so they don't expose themselves for being in an uproar and in a panic? D.L. Hughley is calling out Officer Tatum. I'm going to make you famous. Now, Tatum, this is his time to shine because everybody's calling out Officer Tatum. So he wanted his spotlight, he got it. But make sure you stay on that side because when shit hits the fan, don't come running back to Papa. If you're going to leave your people and go to that side, stay on that side. This is he flew to this island. This was very strategic. He knew that all the clicks, if I sell out, and that's what the clicks come through, ladies and gentlemen, we sell out. How you going to fly talking to the boys' friends, the friends of Nolan, when they didn't even show up to the funeral? They want to talk about, oh, Nolan was my best friend. If you really feel some type of way, how come you didn't pull up to the funeral? Oh, they didn't pull up because they was receiving death threats, right? Well, if my best friend is my best friend, I'm not going to allow somebody threatening my life to stop me from pulling up. So when they pulled up to Officer Tatum podcast, that was a eulogy, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they should have said in the funeral, but instead they want to talk about it on somebody's podcast. But that's your best friend. Nolan Wells, he was my best friend. He was always there for me. But you wasn't there for him? I call cap.
Diamond and Silks or the Stacey Dashes or the Armstrong way, like all of them, when you're there with them and you're wondering what happened, it's because you sold your soul for nothing.
Let me just say this, and I know people gonna clip this and get back, and I don't care.
Damn. And we all want to be successful. Some of us are already successful. Success is a measure of the beholder's eye. So don't let somebody else tell you what success is. But one thing that we cannot do is sell out for the bag. You know how many ways and avenues there is to make money? I mean, for goodness sake, you can work from sunrise to sunset in the hot sun, come back with a bag. Regardless, green is green. We go to cash your check, the doctor cashing his check, and the guy that cuts the grass is still going to go to the same place and cash the check. Green is green. You can make your money the honest way, but to sell out, to pander a certain ethnic group because you want to get clicks and views? How do these people sleep? And do you really believe that? Stop the cap. Now, what I honestly believe that Nolan did consume a lot of stuff, and he was at an altered state. But what I cannot accept is that the throat and the lungs is missing. Now, I do understand sometimes some body parts will be removed throughout the autopsy, but that needs to be put back. Let's stop acting ignorant and naive. People talking about, oh, they have the liberty to remove organs when they do an autopsy. Absolutely you do, but you gotta put those things back. Unless the parents say, you know what, you can keep it for research, I give you permission to donate those organs for people that actually do need it. But no, the family didn't request for him to be an organ donor. So why is the organ separate from the body in the autopsy results? And why was the first medical examiner, why was that autopsy not read? It still not have been revealed, ladies and gentlemen. We got Mr. Ben Crump, Mr. Hooked Up on Finance talking about, I believe Nolan Wells was done injustice down in Mississippi. And you know the history of Mississippi. Who put that southern dude? And is he even fully black? Like I said, not all black folk mean they black. I digress. Let's go back to the content.
I really feel this way. I'm getting sick of black people. Right? I like the black people like me and others that are conservative, that's smart, but the rest of y'all, I'm sick of y'all. It's hard to even want to be around black people, to be honest.
I have never.
Oh my God. Tatum. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want clicks and views, if you want fast success on YouTube, sell out your own people. Officer Tatum, he has sold his soul, and now everybody's talking about him. So if you want to sell out or you want to get the bag, go ahead and call out and sell out your own people. If you can sleep at night and you want to run up a YouTube check, follow the blueprint of Officer Tatum. Now, there's some things that he does right, but one thing we cannot do is pander to a certain ethnic group and be completely ignorant to what's at hand. And what's at hand is that no evidence has been put out. Nothing has been released. The autopsy results coming back with somebody's throat missing without somebody's lungs. Photos of Nolan being shirtless, but they talking about he was fully clothed. We get new audio that was released this week talking about his friends of Nolan declining help from the Coast Guard. How are you sinking in the middle of water and the 911 dispatcher is talking about, do you need help? And your response is, nah, I'm good. And Tatum sees and hears all these red flags, turns a blind eye, and still calls Nolan friends innocent? No, they're suspects, and every single one of them needs to be questioned, not by a YouTuber, but by the law. Not by no YouTuber. How is a bruh? This is an ongoing investigation. They playing around, going on the internet, Cry Me a River, but it's all fake. Talking about Nolan Wells was my best friend. You didn't pull up to the funeral though. And then, what really raised my eyebrows, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, what really brought my attention when I was watching that interview, Bart, the mixed brother that was talking to Officer Tatum, he said verbatim that Nolan Wells is not even fully black. He's mixed of Asian. What does that have to do with anything? And why did you bring that up? Why did you bring up that Nolan Wells is not even fully black? Then he emphasized that and says, but y'all not really hearing me though. What? So these are the two things that he can mean by that. He can refer to, if Nolan Wells is not fully black, it wouldn't get this much attention. But I think the reason why he brought up that Nolan Wells is not fully black is because he's getting attacked for not being fully black. So he feels some type of way. He been feeling some type of way about Nolan Wells. So now he takes the opportunity to throw Nolan Wells underneath the bus where he can't defend himself. He's no longer here, and he wants to throw shade. And that's your but that's your best friend though.
Once, and I've had a disagreement with a lot of black people that I've had disagreement, but I've never once had to make a video.
Hold on, let's listen to COO and Tatum talking about he's scared of black people. This man Tatum is black, talking about he's scared of black people.
Rest of y'all, I'm sick of y'all. It's hard to even want to be around black people, to be honest.
I have never once, and I've had a disagreement with a lot of black people that I've had disagreement, but I've never once had to make a video explaining I don't hate black people.
I do not hate black people. I know that people who are new to my channel, and you see people out there making these videos, it's comical to me because I don't understand how accountability leads to hate.
You said you can't teach me, you can't make me hate white people. You said that.
You want me to hate white people. I'm not doing it.
My question is it making you hate white people? I don't want that at all. What I want to know is, who the fuck taught you to hate us?
The dispatcher, where the person calling asks, or in the background, one or the other, ask, oh my God, is he dead? So that's a whole new level of evidence that I'm interested in seeing where they go with that. And perhaps that's what the prosecutor may have all of this information and say, we're not sharing it because we don't want to bias. We don't want to create bias, et cetera, in the case because in the media, and she may have that. She may have that and take it right to the grand jury. That's what I'm hoping. It sounds like you're looking at something that has already happened and you witnessed what happened and you're saying, did he die from what I just saw? That's what you're saying. Oh, is he dead? Or what? Somebody walked you from around the park and said, hey, or around the other boat dock and say, hey, come look at this. No, you were there. So if that video and audio is correct, it's a whole nother level of evidence that indicates culpability.
What do you make of those who have said, I remember Officer Tatum, a conservative podcaster, very popular, over 3 million subscribers. He's been on the warpath going down, talking to some of the people that were there with Nolan Wells, white individuals. He's saying that evidence is showing that they departed. When they departed, Nolan Wells was alive. And you know what? They may have had absolutely positively nothing to do with this. The evidence shows that. Is that your finding, that the evidence shows that the people being, with allegations being thrown in their direction, the suspicions that have been raised by these people that were in attendance with Nolan Wells, that they should be, they have been proven or found to not have been around even when he was still alive? Is your findings consistent with anything along that verbiage with what people are saying about these kids that were with him?
No, I don't know the answer to that. They say Nolan chose to stay behind because he met a girl he wanted to talk to named Katie. That girl has spoken through her sister, we are told, and she says Nolan told her, I'm going back with my friends. So Who am I supposed to believe? I don't know for a fact that what the boys are saying is true. I don't know for a fact that what the boys are saying is false. I do know they called SEATOW, S-E-A, second word T-O-W, and said that their vessel was sinking. But yet they continued boating around in it for hours after. Is there an innocent explanation? Maybe. Maybe they thought it was sinking, they found the problem, and they fixed it. Now, specters have been raised about audio suggesting Nolan had been on the boat on their return. I don't know if that was doctored. I don't know if it's real. I do know this. He went to Horn Island with them. They came back alive. He's dead. I'm going to investigate. You're darn right I'm going to investigate. And my wish is that his friends are innocent and that this was an accident. But it will be a cold day in HELL that I endorse closing down an investigation because somebody said I had nothing to do with that. What? Am I supposed to go, oh, okay, case closed, forget about it, and go tell the mom, we're shutting down the investigation because so-and-so said he had nothing to do with it?
No wrong here, and we don't understand how we're getting so much hate behind it. We all cared and loved Nolan, and nobody wanted to see Nolan die. Nobody wanted to see his life be taken so short.
Don't know Tristan. We've never met him. So to say, best friend, childhood friend, that's a bit of a stretch. We've never met him. He's never been to our home. Maybe high school, they started hanging out or, kind of been around each other. But again, we don't know him. And not to discount anything he has said, which of course, still trying to rule those things out. But I mean, he has communicated. He did offer his condolences, which we appreciate.
So it's just so confusing because there were 3 boys with him that were good friends with him.
What are they saying?
And they turned off their social media accounts. They say that they have cooperated with the police, but they kept his phone and didn't give it to his parents.
And we're still awaiting autopsy results, and this is not currently being investigated as a homicide, but there's a lot of reason, I think, to suspect foul play, because this is, when they say he was left on an island, this isn't like Grand Cayman. This is literally like a sandbar. There's no running water. Nobody would willingly stay back without a cell phone, not knowing if they had a way to get back. And the reports were that he stayed back with a girl that he'd met and was flirting with, but she then told police that he didn't. She thought he was going back with his friends. There's all these like he said, she said, and I want to be careful of one thing because I think there's a little bit of a jump to implicate the friends he was with on the boat because they went back. We don't know anything yet, but there were also a lot of other young people on this island, a lot of other young people docked up and drinking. So there are also people we may have not heard of who potentially.
So the only way that Nolan Wells could have not been seen when there's 1,000 people. How is 1,000 people on the island, but nobody is a witness of what transpired? So I think he was on the boat. That's the only way That's the only way Nolan Wells couldn't have not been seen by nobody because he was at sea. They did what they did. Maybe a freak accident. Maybe he just got too faded. He slipped off the boat and they freaked out. Maybe they truly are innocent, but they just freaked out. Instead of telling the truth, they tried to hide it. They tried to hide it. And still, even though you hide it, you're still guilty. It's your obligation to tell the police, regardless the friends knew what time it was. It's all Mary cooked. Instead of telling the truth, they're making up these stories, and these stories are not adding up. And how we know it's not the truth? Because one person, Katie, is talking about he went out. So maybe Katie is telling the truth. Maybe he was entertaining the friends on the boat after he left Katie. Because somebody's lying. He left Katie, chilling with the boys on the boat. Something transpired. Now his body's washed up on the shore. Also, if your body was on the island initially, how is it going to wash up on the shore if it's on the island? The only way it can wash up if you're at sea.
Potentially could have been involved if, God forbid, something wrong was done. Either way, I want peace and justice.
Well, and the phone was found because the mom did the Life 360 and traced it to one of the friends' houses. The thing that shocks me is whoever parts with their phone. This is a young person. Yeah, this is a young person, and the his mom was saying that there's no Snapchat. It was more common for her son to have documented certain things. The phone wasn't in his possession, and things seem to be gone. That off the phone. That does raise some suspicion.
And those kids said that they didn't have his phone at first.
One thing about the phone that I don't like saying that his phone was wiped away. Let's not act like phones don't have passwords. So how is his friends going to be able to wipe his phone? Maybe Nolan wiped his phone himself prior to him handing it over because he didn't want to get caught up with anybody, just in case. And he wanted to just start fresh in terms of not having any history, because they're talking about his friends had access to his phone. Okay, they handed over the phone to his mother, but you need a password, and everybody for the most part have a password to their phone. So unless you have some type of device, the friends have some type of ability to hack into the phone, which it is possible that they have that feature to hack into the phone. But let's not act ignorant. Phones have passwords. So how did they go into the phone and wipe clean all the information? Maybe Nolan was trying to, I'm saying, once again, do a little something, something, so he wiped his phone clean. But we're just left to assume, because we haven't seen the results of this case, because they're playing with us. They're sending us autopsy results without the boy's throat and without the man's lungs. Took, I don't know how long, almost 2 weeks to get that. It shouldn't take that long. And the first autopsy hasn't been released. So it leaves us with nothing but to assume and to speculate and to put the pieces together. But one thing we're not going to do, we're not going to make this a race war. In a time that we need to be united more than ever, they're trying to cause a racial divide. So let's stick to the subject at hand and not talk about, stay away from the white man. The white man's evil. Don't you know the white man ancestors, they did so much evil to us? We're not talking about that, bruh. Maybe on another channel, maybe on another video, but on this particular topic, we just want to find out what transpired. We ain't trying to hear about what the white man did in the past.
And because his mother tracked the phone through her Life 360 app, they then turned it over to someone else's, to one of her friends. Yeah. So if you
Oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that, bro. Shout out to Nathan in the chat. They can use his finger to open the phone. I didn't even think about that, because I personally use my face recognition. Do they even, no, hold on. They don't use your finger no more. It's only about it, but still, regardless, they could use his face. If he was passed out or whatever, all they got to do is bring the phone to his face and wipe it clean. Shout out to the chat. I think that's probably what transpired. Because, for the initial story was his phone was wiped clean. I'm thinking, how can his phone get wiped clean if he has a password? Nobody knows his password. But yeah, if he was on the boat before they disposed the body, it was like, yo, hold on, let's delete the evidence. Let's wipe the phone clean. How can we get into the phone? Face recognition. Sheesh. And they did this all in 48 hours, bruh. And they have the audacity. This man, Bart, has a nerve to go on an interview, crossing his arms, talking about Nolan was my best friend. But he's not fully black, though. Why did you mention that, my guy? Why did Bart, the friend of Nolan, mention that Nolan is not fully black? If he was Nolan's alleged friend, you would want the mother of Nolan to receive as much bread as possible, because that's your friend and that's the mother of, that's the mom of Nolan. So from outside looking in, you should be happy that he's getting as much funding as he is from celebrities, from actors, from the whole United States, almost worldwide. But instead, you go on the camera with Mr. Tatum saying that Nolan Wells is not fully black. So what is your agenda? Are you trying to tell the black community to stop donating to Nolan Wells because he's not fully black? So are you being a, what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Is it called a cock blocker, or he's standing in the way? Because by him, we have to use our spirit of discernment. When people say stuff, really hear what they're saying. Where is that energy coming from? What purpose was it to initiate the statement saying that Nolan Wells is not fully black? He is trying to stop the money from being donated to Nolan Wells' family. Because some people, when they hear that, oh, Nolan Wells is not fully black, I only support black people. As if he's not black. Black is the dominant gene. If you do the Punnett square, let's break it down to science, talking about if you mix, you're not even black. Mix anything with black, black is the dominant gene. And so there's a recessive gene and there's a dominant gene, and there's 4 squares that make that. There's going to be 2 uppercase. There's going to be, there's going to be 1, 2 uppercase, 2 uppercase, 2 lowercase, and 1, 2 lowercase. And that what makes your genotype, your phenotype, your hair, your nails, your eye color, who you are as a person. And if you're a mix of black, that is going to be the dominant gene. That doesn't make him less black because he's mixed of Asian. Do you hear the foolishness? The friend is talking to somebody on camera talking about Nolan Wells is not fully black, as if that makes a difference. So what was he trying to do by making that statement? And Officer Tatum, he's just nodding his head, trying to play politics, not really voicing his opinion. He just wanted to document. So was he paid for that interview? Ironically, these boys want to talk to Officer Tatum when the autopsy results come out, though, right? He was dead, cold, quiet. He didn't say a word. But when the autopsy comes out with Ben Crump, with his hooked on phonics looking ass, I believe one day we can be friends with white people, but today is not the day. Looking at Ben Crump is reading the autopsy, releasing results that he has no throat and no lungs. And now you want to talk to Mr. Tatum. Stop the cap.
Come back with someone else's phone and you know that they're missing. Why would you not call the parents immediately and say,
well, why
have
didn't you
a
call
phone?
as soon as you knew he wasn't there? Because you had to have known he wasn't there because he wasn't there on the boat back.
When you went back.
When you went back. And if he's the only black kid, you know he's missing.
Yes.
And his parents also said he was athletic and a good swimmer because drowning was kind of the initial thoughts, which there are rip currents here. There even good swimmers could have run.
If he was drowning, as they claim, why was his body washed up on shore? Your body can't just wash up on shore if you're initially on the island. That doesn't make sense. The only way that you can wash up on shore if you was on an actual boat, somewhere far from land, and then, of course, your body will eventually show up on shore. But by the boy's story, he was never on the boat, which would indicate he was on the island, but they interviewed Miss Katie, the last woman that was seen with Mr. Nolan, and she's talking about Nolan left and got on the boat. And nobody got arrested yet? They're doing their best to cover up their adolescents, their offspring, because they know what's at stake. If their boys, if their kids get caught in a situation, their name is tarnished. They necessarily won't go to jail, but they know that their bloodline is cooked. Your last name in the tabloids like that, they're doing everything in their power to hide their tracks. Talking about the boy's body was washed ashore, but Miss Katie talking about the boy was never on the island. He left on the boat. So which one is it?
Into danger, but you have to consider
And
that
kudos
too.
to Colin Kaepernick, because Colin Kaepernick has paid for the independent autopsy, flying the body from Mississippi to Washington, D.C., so that it can be independent. And Tyler Perry is paying for his funeral.
Shout out to Tyler Perry. Shout out to Colin Kaepernick. Shout out to the ones actually putting their money where their mouth is, because it sounds good. People can make videos all day and act like they care, but if you actually got the resources, put your money where your mouth is. And Colin Kaepernick paid for the funeral, or was it no, Colin Kaepernick paid for the autopsy. Tyler Perry paid for the funeral. And people mad about that. But if the roles was reversed, and if it was a boy with a lighter skin complexion, this case would already been solved. If Nolan Wells was white, surrounded by a group of black people, which that would never happen. We also got to talk about that. Do you think a white boy would chill with 1,000 plus black people and he's the minority? Now, I know Nolan Wells wasn't the only black boy on the island, but still, it was a very few compared to the majority. Do you think that would happen vice versa? Absolutely not. So why did Nolan Wells do that? They're talking about this is a ritual, ladies and gentlemen, but it's a ritual when it comes to the courtroom hiding the injustice that's being transpired. Because if it was their own, they would have raised hell and hot water, and they would want to find justice and answers. People blow up for way less. Have you seen somebody upset when their food order is incorrect? They're ready to catch a case in a restaurant if you don't have their food right. Let it be their own child? Stop the cap. But the body's being sent without a throat, without lungs, and they want the people just to accept that and move on. Go ahead and pay your rent this Saturday. Move on. No answers, no lungs, no throat, no first autopsy. You got to pay for your own autopsy to get the results. What? Stop the cap.
You don't want to jump to race.
No.
But Mississippi doesn't have the best reputation.
Correct.
And so we want to make sure that the officers that are there know that we are expecting them to do their job. Unlike years ago when they didn't, this is 2026. So we are expecting your best work to find out what happened to this young man.
So for somebody to believe that this dispatch call is a desperate call with Nolan laying dead in the middle of their boat, that does not make sense. And
how does it not make sense? It makes perfect sense, but Tatum is defending these boys. Why? Please let me know in the chat, why is Tatum defending these boys? Is it because he's trying to pander to a certain group to make them feel good?
to think that nobody saw it when they're entangled within all these people, I think is a disservice. We need to get to the information that I heard. We'll get to Miss Rachel and her silly self. And Judge Mathis. We'll get to Judge Mathis. But what I was told, and you guys, please take in consideration that it's reliable sources. However, the only way to prove the truth in this is if I see it with my own eyes, if the law enforcement have the investigation of this, and also when the toxicology results come out. But people are messaging me and telling me that there is heavy drinking and there's cocaine involved. And there's a particular person whom I know this person's name. I'm not going to disclose it. I'm going to go to the police first, and then I will disclose it if it doesn't interfere in the.
If there was cocaine, if there was snow involved, regardless, Nolan friends are going to get in trouble, because if it shows in the blood work that cocaine is in his system, automatically the friends are going to be prosecuted 100%.
Investigation. But this person allegedly was offering people cocaine, and someone close to Nolan, one of his friends, told me that this person was offered cocaine and rejected it from this person. And
ladies and gentlemen, so now it's making sense why his throat and his lungs is missing. If they do the blood work and show the results of Nolan Wells' system and showing that a controlled substance is within his blood, his friends are cooked. So the judge and the family of the friends of Nolan, they're smart enough to know, you know what, we can't allow that to go to the masses. So let's remove the boy's stomach and his throat. That way, even though they got the body, they can't figure out what happened. Take away his stomach, how are you supposed to know what he consumed? Take away the throat, how are you supposed to know if he was strangled or not? Is that allowed? Can you do that? Is that legal to remove a throat and stomach and not put it back? Who told him to do that in the first place? They got to get a second autopsy to barely get parts of the body like it's Mr. Potato Head. This ain't Mr. Potato Head. If I buy a car, I want the full car. I don't want the tires to be missing. How 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 are you sending an autopsy without a throat and the lungs?
I was also told, and this person told me that it's over 100% chance that Nolan was using cocaine during.
Let me see. King Chicago 8181 says, yes, we can remove parts as part of the procedure. Yeah, of course. The autopsy, you're supposed to remove organs from the body, study it. But what are you supposed to do after, King Chicago? Do you dispose of those organs? Do you donate the organs? Or do you put the organs back? Or do you call the family or go to the chart and see what the hell is next? What is the protocol? Like, what is the family's request? And why is the autopsy results, the first one, why hasn't it been released? See, we understand as an autopsy, you have to remove the organs, but with that same take, who told them, especially in a case like this, who told them to keep those vital parts away from the second autopsy? Crazy work.
In this period of time, this person said it was 150% sure that when the toxicology comes back, that Nolan will have.
Yo, second life of the stream, man. I appreciate it, man. Because, you know, in times like these, it's good to live every now and then. Let me see. Shank Top Out 88 says, you're trying so hard to make this more than it is. Yo, isn't it crazy how people have no type of empathy for the next person? But God forbid, because I have to say that first, God forbid it happened to you or your loved one. You would feel some type of way. Matter of fact, you wouldn't even be able to sleep at night if this happened to your adolescent that you brought, your offspring that you brought into this world. But because it doesn't affect your personal life, who cares though, right? Yo, the human nature is hilarious.
Cocaine in the system. Now, again, taking into consideration, this is somebody telling me this. I'm not saying it's me. I'm not saying it. I'm not able to verify it. But from the sources that I'm getting it from has been consistent, verifiable sources thus far and hadn't been wrong about nothing. So there's a possibility that there's a person that Nolan may have been around or interacted with that is giving cocaine to people on this island that Nolan may.
So this is the first time officially that we're hearing that Nolan has a controlled substance in his system. It hasn't been addressed by any broadcasters, any mass media. Mr. Officer Tatum says that he has a reliable source saying that Mr. Nolan consumed a controlled substance. If that's true, that means his friends also consume that controlled substance, which means his friends are cooked because his parents also are going to be cooked and held reliable because everybody's underage. And even if they was of age, which there is no age, it's still illegal. They're cooked at every angle that you look at the case.
They have taken the cocaine. And then also, I received a DM from someone DMing another person. Now, I'm trying to leave these names out because I want to not mess this investigation up. I think law enforcement already have this. That alluded to the fact that, and I messaged this person because I want to talk directly to the person that I saw the DM from. And we haven't talked to this person yet. But the person said in the DM to another kid that is associated, not any of the kids that I interviewed or talked to, but that could be associated to some degree, that knew Nolan, that this person wrote a message saying, me and my husband saw you arguing with Nolan, and to the effect of you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. Now, the person did not say they saw a physical altercation. The person did not say what time they saw Nolan and this other person getting into an argument. Now, this is after Warren, their boat left. This may be somewhere around a little bit before 6, right around 6 or a little bit before 6 p.m. Now, according to the autopsy, which I interviewed a medical examiner about this, there is no evidence of blunt force trauma or an evidence that Nolan got in.
100%. God is raw. One says we are living amongst demons. 100%. You know, to undermine somebody that passed away not last year, but literally within 30 days, 4th of July. He was washed on shore 48 hours after the 4th of July. Nobody was present. Nobody was a witness. They didn't see what happened to Nolan. Stories are not adding up. The last woman that was seen with Nolan is Katie McCormick. She's talking about he left on the boat. They interviewed Nolan's friends. They're talking about he wasn't on the boat to begin with. Too much inconsistencies. If you spam the chat, you will be out of here. Do not spam the chat. Don't be racist and do not spam in the chat. It's my only rules on my live. Say whatever you want to say. Practice your First Amendment right. I will not mute you. I will not block you. But when you become racist and when you start spamming, you're cooked. But back to the content. Yeah, we are living amongst demons for sure. Having no empathy for the next man. But God forbid, if it was to happen to your beloved adolescent or somebody who you knew personally and there's no justice and you finally get the autopsy, body parts is missing, how would you feel?
Into a physical altercation. So I'm putting all this stuff together, what people are sending me and all that, and I'm trying to find a neutral point to share with you. What I'm thinking at this point, with all that has been said, is that somebody knows exactly what happened to Nolan, or they saw him right before he died. I am not convinced that Nolan was just out there and drowned. It could be.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's very curious, bro. If this was only black on black, nobody would be talking about this. But because the white man's involved, this is getting all the attention. If I do the same live stream with happened with Irvin. Irvin was a man that was outside a gas station and he got deleted by his own kind. But because the white man took the life of Nolan, there's an uproar. We got Ben Crump. Ben Crump, why are you selective on your cases? You only go towards where the money is at. I mean, you got to pay your bills, but keep the same energy. Why does it take the white man to allegedly delete Nolan Wells for you to finally get to work? Oh, Mississippi down in the South, the white man involved. Oh, man, we about to run it up. But nothing about Mr. Irvin. Also, somebody recently passed last night. I have to make a video about that. Crazy work, but that's a true statement. A lot of content creators wouldn't be making Nolan Wells videos if it wasn't for the white man being involved. And that's what I think Mr. Bart, the friend of Nolan, when he had an interview with Officer Tatum, I think that's what he was trying to indicate by saying that Nolan Wells is not fully black, he's Asian. Then he wants to respond with that. Y'all not really hear me though. Nolan Wells is not fully black. Why would the friend of Nolan Wells, Mr. Bart, why would he say that? Regardless if he's not fully black or not, if you were his friend, wouldn't you want the best interest of your friend? By you saying that statement, you're trying to stop people donating. You're trying to stop people giving a F about Nolan because you didn't help him by making that statement. Did you help him by you making that statement? Was that any assistance? Did you make the situation better? No. If anything, you made it worse. Certain FBA members, now what's FBA? FBA is Foundational Black Americans. They hear that Nolan Wells is not fully black. Low key, they can feel some type of way, even though black is the recessive gene. Oh yeah, Bart had the interview for sure. It's crazy work. Let's go back to the content.
That could have happened. But
there's two interviews. There's Bart and there's Tristan. It's on Officer Tatum's YouTube. I'm gonna play that here shortly. Crazy work. Imagine pulling up to somebody's YouTube channel, but you can't even pull up to the funeral. But this is your allegedly best friend though, right?
I'm more convinced now than ever based on what people have been telling me and DMs that I've been seeing, people that have been verified sources, that has to be something with this cocaine. There has to be something with Nolan and a girl. And there has to be something with Nolan potentially being in either altercation with somebody, which would lead me to believe that that person saw Nolan last. And that this other person that's giving people cocaine. So this person giving people cocaine, a girl, Nolan, and another person that he may have been in an argument with, to me, are people that need to be investigated. And I can say more, but I'm trying not to get anything messed up in this case because I want justice for Nolan, and I want the boys that weren't involved in this to not get caught up in stupidity. So
God is Raw Run says Bart is a 21-year-old we are now starting to hear about. Warren is the first interview. Yeah, so Warren is the first interview. He shows Officer Tatum the island, saying that it's a 10 miles radius. There's 1K people on the island. That's the first interview. The second interview is the mixed boy named Bart. He came down from college to celebrate with his friends and family. He gets into an altercation. We see that video. We assume it's Nolan, but it's really Bart. Bart is the one that got into the fight. Then he confesses in the interview that he has with Tatum, saying that the last words I told Nolan Wells was that I love you. When I first heard that, I was like, why? That's cap. Why would you tell the camera the last words that you told the man is that you love him? Then I was like, maybe three different scenarios. One, the fight was over Nolan Wells. Bart was defending his friend, so that's why he said, I love you, bro. Two, the reason why he said that he loves him, my opinion, is that the man obviously is lying in front of the camera and wants the public to have a perception that he is actually has no parts, because he said that he was with his uncle on a boat, which is an alibi. He's strategically saying these words to persuade the mind of the people that's listening to make him excluded from the case. So he's talking about the last words he said towards Nolan was that he loved him. Then he wants to say in the interview that he was never with Nolan. He was on his uncle's boat. Then he woke up 10 a.m. the next day with 2 missed phone calls from Nolan. But this is your best friend, though, right? We're going to play that interview here shortly. It's not adding up, though. If you truly love Nolan, why would you say in that same mouth that you said that you love Nolan, talking about he's not fully black? Out the same mouth, you talking about the last words I told Nolan was I love you. You want to go on an interview and say Nolan Wells is not a full black man. He's mixed with Asian. Why did you say that? What was your purpose? Like, what's the reasoning? What was your game? What was your motive? What was your agenda? Why did you say that? Knowing the black community is supporting Nolan Wells, are you mad he's getting support? That's your best friend. If you're innocent, you would have want your best friend to get all the support possible to find what happened to him, to your friend. But you're cock blocking. You're getting in the way, talking about Nolan Wells is not fully black. What was your purpose in saying that? Let's go back to the content.
Just so you guys know, I know the names of the cocaine person. I believe I know who the girl is. And I know the name of the person that may have been in an argument with Nolan. And there's nothing conclusive that anybody's telling me where there was violence that occurred. But that does not mean that the violence is ruled out. That does not mean that something...
Tatum, bruh. I think Tatum is going to get sued, bro. He is getting in the way of an investigation. How are you speaking for the next person and you don't even know what happened?
Could have happened in the water. Another report came to me of someone saying that they saw Nolan with a girl, being intimate in the water to the point where it caught their attention.
Try Jesus, not me, cause I throw hands. Try Jesus, not me, cause I throw hands. I like that tag name. He said he would have made sure his friend got home safe. A true friend. I mean, you can be completely intoxicated. I mean, so much so to where you're coherent and you passed out. But your true friend will make sure you make it home and you will wake up the next day not knowing where you're at, but you know that while you was passed out, nothing happened because your friend took care of you. A true friend, when they see you not all there, will take care of you. They're not going to take pictures and post you on social media and make fun of your demise. No. Maybe when you come back sober the next morning, but they will make sure that you're not going to goggle on your own vomit. They're going to make sure that you're Gucci. But this is allegedly your best friend, though, right? But you can't show up to the funeral. That makes sense.
And they believe that they saw Nolan and this girl struggling in the water, not necessarily drowning, but struggling. Like it was obvious enough that the person was concerned when they saw Nolan in the water and he was with this girl. And that the person explicitly said that they were being intimate, which I don't know what that means as far as just kissing, hugging, cuddling, or something else. But that's what has been told to me. And these sources I think, have been legitimized. But what they're saying, I haven't been able to verify. This is just someone saying this.
Goddess Ross says the boy that I've been calling Bart is really Tristan. Okay, that's my mistake. Tristan is the one that was talking about Nolan Wells is not fully black. He's mixed of Asian. And that's nasty work how content creators want to stand on their wrongfulness, if that's even a word, which I'm pretty sure is not. They want to stand incorrect, knowing that they're pushing out wrong information and the right information is in front of you, and they still want to be ignorant. See, that's the thing. When you see the facts, you cannot ignore the facts. You have to adjust. But people see the truth and still turn a blind eye. That's one thing we're not going to do. I was stand corrected. I thought I said the boy that was Tristan was Bart. It's really Tristan. I don't know these boys' names. Tristan, this cock-blocking ass ninja wants to talk about Nolan Wells not fully black. Why did he say that?
And I'm telling you what I'm hearing. So when the toxicology come back, if there's cocaine in the system, to me, that will validate that these people that have been telling me this are being accurate. And like I said, somebody really close to Nolan made mention that they're almost 100% sure that he may have been partaking in the use of cocaine. And it's unfortunate. I've been knowing this, at least that part, for a while now, but I didn't want to put his name out there like that, given the fact that he just lost his life. But now,
Larry Johnson 2250 said, "What is the big deal about this kid? He's all over the YouTube. Oh yeah, he's all over YouTube, X, Facebook, TikTok. He's all over the place. The reason why this is a big deal is because his body was washed on shore 48 hours when he was with a group of friends, and nobody saw what happened. There are no witnesses, and nobody has gotten arrested, but yet a body is found deceased. So that's the big deal. It'd be one thing if we can point the finger at somebody and then we can move on, but still, not a single arrest has been done. Also, the second autopsy that was sent, read by Mr. Hooked on Phonics, Ben Crump, Nolan's lungs and throat was missing from the autopsy. So why would the throat be missing from the body?
I know we're getting more information. The investigation is going further along. I'm just putting it out there, and we shall see if what is being told is accurate.
Yo, chat. Crazy work that we have to address the loss of a life that's still not being answered. People talking about in the chat, what is the big deal about Nolan Wells? He's all over the place. People could care less. And that's why I'm making this live stream, to inform the masses of what happened, and everybody who has a platform, who's making videos about Nolan Wells, big salute, because if it was up to Mississippi, this would be a closed case. I want to go to the polls real fast. 292 votes in the building. We got 69% says yes, Tatum is cooning to Nolan Wells' friends, and 31% are defending Officer Coon Tatum. Let's go back to content.
But I'll finish it with this. I'm leaning more towards believing that somebody directly saw Nolan and know how Nolan died. That's my take on it. I don't think he was just drowning out there messing around. I think that somebody know more than what they're saying. And I don't think it's a lot of people. I think it's a few people that were last on the island with Nolan that know what happened, that seen what happened, or may have knowledge of something that will lead police in the right direction to find out exactly what happened. And I am encouraging you. I know some of y'all names. If it's you, you need to do the right thing. You need to go to authorities. And if you're there and you had nothing to do with it, you definitely need to go to authorities and clear your name. I'll say this: some of these people may have already gone to authorities. I don't know. The authorities won't tell me who they interviewed. So we'll go to that next step when it comes.
Larry Johnson, respectfully, I hear what you're saying, but this is not about those boys in New York City. This is about Nolan Wells. Whatever video or live stream that I talk about is going to be about that topic. So going inside somebody's live stream talking about a certain topic and you talking about fuck that is crazy work. And I understand what you're talking about, because also there was this man named Irvin. Nobody's talking about Irvin. He passed away at a gas station minding his business outside, ran in the crossfire of two thugs, and he got deleted. Nobody's making videos about that. But to go inside somebody's live stream talking about F this kid is crazy work, ladies and gentlemen, keep your head on a swivel.
I want to address Judge Mathis real quick. I got about 9 minutes. Here is where I think people should shut up unless they have a working knowledge of verifiable truth. If you want to give a hypothesis, say this.
Yo, do you know what's funny? People are feeling some type of way about Nolan Wells' friends, right? So Ziggy, you say you have another word, you have no idea the facts, and it's sad that you would blame these young kids who have been cooperating fully with the law enforcement. So let's talk about it, Ziggy Bear. That's why you have the freedom of speech. You can speak your mind and say whatever you want to say, as long as you stay respectful and as long as you're not racist. You can say whatever you want to say. So Ziggy, I have no facts. The facts are that Nolan Wells was missing for 48 hours. The facts are that there was 1K plus people on the island, but not a single witness saw what happened to Nolan Wells. The facts are that Nolan Wells' throat is missing and his lungs are missing. The facts are is that we still haven't seen the first autopsy. Could you imagine talking about the second autopsy, but not the first one? The facts are is that they said when they found Nolan Wells that he was fully clothed, but he was found without a shirt. The facts are that Katie said, the last woman that was seen with Mr. Nolan, is that he was on a boat, but the boys, Nolan Wells' friends, said that he was on the island. Those are the facts. So if you have black fatigue, if you're tired of hearing about, black people dying, I understand. It could be very, taxing on the brain, but that doesn't take away that the fact that Nolan Wells is still gone. If you need a break, turn off your social media devices, take a walk, take a nap, do what you got to do. But to undermine and to underplay somebody else's life when we haven't received any type of arrest, any type of news, not even the medical examiner from the first autopsy, that hasn't even been released. But there's no sympathy, there's no empathy for the next man, because who cares though, right? We only care about taking care of our bills and the rent that's upcoming, right? Crazy work.
This is a hypothesis. Before you start accusing people and saying specifically and throwing their names out there and trying to say Nolan Wells is associated with Emmett Till.
48 hours. King Chicago, missing for 2 days. But his friends allegedly are best friends of Nolan, right? Talking about his body washed up on shore. How is his body going to wash up on shore if you're initially on the island? That means he was on the boat. Now controlled substance is involved? No wonder they was panicking. Let's go to that phone call real quick.
Our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles? Hello?
What'd you say? Hey.
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
All right, well, let's get you going. Membership number or phone number listed on the account, sir?
I don't know the phone number. It's either Jerry Atkerson. I think it's Jerry Atkerson. Try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership, like guaranteed. I don't have the tag
unless
on
you
here.
have
It
a
got ripped
membership
off.
number or anything, it's okay. I'll
Try Jesus, not me, because I throw hands, bro. That is a hilarious tag, bro. I effort that tag name. You say on Nancy Grace, she shared the audio of Warren making a 911 call, and during that call, one of the friends in the background is shouting, "Don't die, Nolan," also asking Warren, did he reach someone? So the audio is showing that Nolan friends are being frantic in the background, but then when you play the audio to Mr. Coon Tatum, he's talking about he doesn't hear that. Let's play it again. And let me actually display it in front of the screen so y'all can see as well. Give me 1 second. Just move this out the way. All right, let me get your comment out the way. Shout out to everybody in the chat.
Our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir?
Y'all heard that? He said, "Shut the F up."
How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles? Hello?
What'd you say? Hey.
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
All right, well, let's get you going. Membership number or phone number listed on the account, sir?
I don't know the phone number. It's either Jerry Atkerson. I think it's Jerry Atkerson. Try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership, like guaranteed. I don't have the tag
unless
on
you
here.
have
It
a
got ripped
membership
off.
number or anything, it's okay. I'll get you over to the captain. What's the best phone number to reach you at? All right. And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's
How many? All right. Do you need the United States Coast?
Now use your spirit of discernment. When he responded to the 911 dispatcher talking about, yeah, everyone is on board, his tone of voice completely changed. So his tone of voice could change because his boat is sinking, but what I'm getting is that he know he's cooked because his friend in the background initially when he called 911, his voice is being recorded by the 911 dispatcher. So prior to him saying anything, they're being recorded. It's a lot of noise in the background. When he finally speaks, his friend in the background says, "Shut the F up." As he continues to talk to 911, he incriminates himself more and more and more. And I think his friends in the background, they realize, bro, you're snitching on us. Shut up, bro. You're cooking us right now. That's why his tone changed.
Coast Guard?
What?
Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
No, we do not need that.
All right.
Yeah.
Livewire says you need to be very wary of calling out red rum without any proof. That's called defamation. But I get it. Everyone is an expert detective now. You know what? I 100% agree with you, Livewire. You can't be just accusing people without evidence. But I'm showing audio. I'm showing pictures of Nolan Wells without a throat, without his lungs. I'm listing and I am announcing everything that is factual and that's in front of the mass. I'm not pointing fingers. We're not giving accusations. We're not talking about white versus black. I'm not blaming the white man for anything. I'm not playing victim. I'm not race baiting. That's not that type of stream. I'm simply playing audio and dissecting the audio. So how can I get sued? And how's this defamation? As if I'm making up a story. We got to stop the cap. And if you have a voice and if you have a platform, ladies and gentlemen, use your platform. Don't be scared, but keep your receipts. Don't be talking out your ass without receipts. People be talking about the Bible, but they can't quote a scripture. Stop the cap.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Do you have your current GPS coordinates?
Let me get.
God, I think those videos are fake. I've seen those videos of them on the beach throwing a black boy on the sand, but I don't think that's real for sure. Because if it was real, that video would be going all over the internet. So that is a fake video.
Look.
If not, I can send you a text message.
One thing I don't like, ladies and gentlemen, as well, is that people using this case to cause a racial divide. Let's talk about the man that's no longer here, that's no longer breathing, and what happened and why he's not here. We can't blame a whole ethnic group talking about stay away from the white man. If you really feel that way, then quit your 9 to 5. Spreading hate in front of the masses like you don't see white people on your day-to-day basis, some crazy work. Are y'all serious? You're exposing the racism that's within your heart. Stop the cap.
You ready?
Yes, sir. I'm available.
North 3 degrees. But
it's not a race war. They're trying to make it a race war. That's what they're trying to do on social media. But go out into the real world, there is no race war. The white man is not going to stop me from buying groceries. He's not going to stop me from doing whatever, whatever the F I want to do. Now, do we still face problems modern day? Absolutely. But it's not a race war. That's what they want us to do. They want us to be divided now more than ever. And what is the cause of being divided? You make that person weaker. But united, oh man, put 2 and 2 together, come up with a conclusion, stick together, you can accomplish anything. They don't want that.
$46.72.
All right, 4672. All right, and you were breaking up a little bit. Can you just repeat it one more time to make sure I have it correct?
Sorry, look.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what?
So you're breaking up. If you need assistance, do you have a VHF radio?
Yeah, we do not have a VHF radio.
All right, well, let's try to get you going because you don't have good cell phone reception. Can you verify your coordinates one more time?
Okay, my coordinates are 30 degrees by 14.684 north, and then west by 88 degrees by 46.79.
Right, it looks like you're on Horn Island, correct? Are you
yes,
on
we are
Horn
at
Island?
Horn Island? Yes.
All right, is the
Relationship that you had with Nolan. Can you explain your relationship with Nolan?
Yeah, I will. So his mom got on TV, as everybody has seen, and said that she didn't know me. And
Nolan Wells' mom is officially suing the friends of Nolan. But before we go into that interview, I wanted to play a little bit more of Mr. Coon Tatum and his take.
You need to do a little more research before you say it, because if you listen to people like Judge Mathis, I can see why y'all think that these white boys did it, and that because he's operating with half or false statements. Roll the clip.
And then you've had different stories coming out from the teenagers. One of the young men himself spoke out about it, claiming they had begged Nolan to get on the boat, and that he wouldn't. Then there's the woman that he's supposed to have stayed back with, I think her name Katie or something. Well, he was supposed to have stayed back with Katie. That was their story. However, Katie's friend says that Katie hasn't, she saw him only in passing on the island.
Time out. Let me just clarify what he said. That's why y'all need to go and listen to the interview that I did with Warren. Because I saw Katie's text messages, and Katie did not say she just saw him in passing. I saw what she said about Nolan. Now, all of the other people that I've talked to, that I've heard from, and people that have sent the message out are alluding to the fact that Nolan was with some girl. All of his friends are saying he stayed behind with a girl, with a girl, with a girl. I don't understand how people don't believe his best friends and they believe a statement of a girl that didn't hardly know him well.
Maybe because they all are in on it and they trying to give you a alibi so you can persuade your mind to thinking otherwise. Just because somebody tells you something doesn't mean it's the truth. You have to take it with a grain of salt and do your own research and due diligence to find the truth for yourself. Men lie, women lie. Numbers don't. And numbers can still be misconstrued. Crazy work. So because they told you they didn't do it, that's law, right?
So Judge Mathis is not correct on this, and he needs to go back and watch the interview so he can get a perception of this.
Nah, this is nasty work. Imagine telling a judge that's seen thousands of cases. He's so popular, he made it on TV. Judge Mathis. He's speaking about this case. And you're talking about the judge is wrong. If anything, you should be like, you know what? If the judge feels like something's iffy, let me backtrack. I know the white community is paying for my bills, but I can't coon this much. Why is he caping for the white community so hard? But through the coonery, we still got a blessing in disguise by hearing Tristan, that I thought was Bart. Shout out to the chat for correcting me. It's actually Tristan that had the interview with Mr. Tatum. And Mr. Tristan exposed himself for being a envious friend, talking about Nolan Wells not even fully black. He's mixed with Asian. Why would you say that? And he got unalived. He passed away less than 3 weeks ago, and you want to talk about he's not fully black? So yeah, through the coonery of Tatum, we heard the jealousy that lies within Mr. Tristan's heart, because there is no purpose to bring that up, talking about he's not fully black. He was trying to stop his GoFundMe from getting higher.
Because she alluded to the fact that his friends, Katie alluded to the fact that his friends had told him to get on the boat and he did not. And she did not see him leave on the boat that he came on. All right, roll it.
Stay with him, and Katie isn't saying anything at all. So it's a lot of moving parts here, and I'm just hoping it's not one of those, quite frankly, and if his friends didn't have anything to do with it and they truly left him behind, etc., etc., he has discoloration, bruises on the back of his neck.
Something out. He does not have bruising on the back of his neck, and you guys are going to see the interview that I did with the medical examiner, a chief medical examiner of Tarrant County. It wasn't bruising to the back of his neck. It was a particular bone that's structured in the back of his head that underneath the skin, there was redness. Now, when you see the interview that I did with him, he explains what that could be and what that could not be. So it's not as obvious as there's clear signs of trauma to the back of his head, bruising or contusions. That's not true. Roll the clip.
Happened. And quite frankly, this.
So where's Tatum getting this information? Because the first autopsy hasn't been released. It's only by the second autopsy funded by Mr. Colin Kaepernick, the former quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, now black activist, sees that, okay, that looks funny, what's going on in Mississippi. So he funds the autopsy, the second one. So Tatum's talking about he's not receiving bruises in the back of the head. How does he know that? Because nobody knows anything. The only proof of evidence that we got is from the second autopsy. Nothing else has been released besides the audio and the autopsy funded by Mr. Kaepernick. But he wants to talk about there was no bruise in the back of the head. How do you know? He's so quick to defend these boys, huh?
This is Mississippi, where in 1955, which sparked the civil rights movement, Emmett Till was killed for so-called whistling at a white woman. And now,
hold on. We're not going to do that. Hold on, Ashley. I feel you, but we're not going to do that. Talking about I hope Tatum has kids. We are not going to hope the downfall of the next man. We can try our best to shed light and positivity to the situation, but we're not going to wish downfall on the next man because of their ignorance.
Now we're hearing Nolan Wells stayed back to be with a white woman, and he turns up dead with bruises behind his neck. That's the context I'm putting this in. It's Emmett Till, perhaps, all over.
Let me tell you why Judge Mathis should quit the internet and never speak again until he...
Hold on. He's referring to a judge, not a YouTuber. He's not talking to Candace Owens speculating. You know, Candace Owens is doing more work than the actual federal agencies. Like, how is the YouTubers able to do more work? But I digress. So Tatum is telling a judge that went to school, has his degree, years and years, decades and decades of experience in the court of law. He gives his take, and you want to say he should stop talking? I gotta go to the poll with that one and read the poll. We got 400 votes in the building. Is Tatum pandering to Nolan's friends? We got 70% saying yes, 30% says no. For the 30% voting, Tatum is not cooning for these white friends. Please let me know in the chat. Oh, man. Yo, Tatum is really putting on the cape for his friends. Now, I understand you're not guilty until, you're innocent until proven guilty. But if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Too many inconsistencies, too much stuff hidden. Stories are not matching up. But the friends are innocent though, right? 1,000 plus people on the island, but nobody saw anything. Meanwhile, you can't even speed 5-10 miles above the speed limit. Your ass is going to get pulled over, and you be lucky if you can even get a warning. Your ass is only barely speeding. But Nolan Wells, the minority, and y'all know damn well, people know if you're a minority, they know as soon as you step in the room. Matter of fact, they know they know your whereabouts 6 feet prior to even seeing you. They know where you are at all times. Where I reside, they think I'm a guest and I pay rent where I stay at. They're like, who is this ninja? I'm like, yo, I pay rent here, dog. So they know where my black ass is at all times. I mean, all times. But Nolan Wells is out in the sun, open beach, not like he was in the Amazon forest where there's trees to hide him. Open plain, but nobody saw him. Stop the cat.
He apologized to Emmett Till's extended family. For you to invoke that this has any similarity to Emmett Till is disingenuous and partially ignorant and evil. Emmett Till was a kid, a little kid. I think he was like 13 or something like that. Can you verify that for me? Emmett Till was a very little kid. He was a little kid.
God is Raw says no one saw anything because he already left them on the boat. Exactly. So the initial story was that Nolan Wells was on the island and he was washed up on the shore. Well, how can you be washed up on the shore if you're on the island? Does that make any sense? So you're on a playing field, right? You're on the beach or the sand, whatever, and your body somehow leaves the beach and gets washed up on shore when you're initially on sand? But that's what they were saying, though. The only way your body can wash up if you're on a boat. Story's not adding up, and these kids are trying to hide it. They panic. They hurry up and call their peoples. They called whoever they had to call. They told them what to do. Instead of telling the truth and dealing with the consequences, they're trying to hide it.
Emmett Till did not go out with his friends on Horn Island and get and drinking and having a good time with autonomy after being in college in 2020.
One Live 890 says the tide will pull you out. Oh yeah, I do understand if Nolan Wells initially was on the island, as they say, and he was, entertaining the water. One live, I can debunk you quick as hell. You ready for this? And that's why I made this live. And shout out to you for being in the chat. But let's use our brain. How far away do you think he would swim if he was on the island? Not that far, probably no more than a couple feet. If he somehow caught a cramp, let's just speak of hypothetically a freak accident. He caught a cramp, something happened, he was faded, he got washed up ashore, freak accident, natural causes, whatever, right? It will not take 48 hours to find him. If he was by that island, it would not take 2 full days to find a body. 2 full days? And also, not only is his lungs and his throat missing, but they're refusing to release the taxonomy, the blood work of what happened. Because when you release that blood work, it's going to say a lot. If he was really drowned, the lungs would say that. If he was really in that water for 48 hours, that test would give the results of everything. But it still has not been released. Why is that? Oh, yeah, we know why.
6. Emmett Till allegedly whistled or made a remark against a white woman, which is not, he may have actually done that because Emmett Till did not live in the South.
Oh, yeah, common sense is not common anymore. By God is raw. Absolutely. You know, you got to paint it out. You got to show evidence. And even with the evidence, people will still deny. And the evidence is that the man's throat is missing. He has no lungs. He was found shirtless, but they talking about he was fully clothed. They talking about he was washed up, found on shore, but he was never on the island. He was on the island. It's too much red flags, bruh. Too many red flags. But nobody got arrested yet. Why?
He wasn't familiar with the segregation and racism and stuff in the South. They came to Emmett Till's family member's house, his uncle's house. They went to the door and said, give us Emmett. We're just going to teach him a lesson. With the intent to take him from his home. He was a 14-year-old boy. He wasn't 18. He wasn't a grown man. And they took him from his home with the intent to kill him. They took him out. They mutilated him. They put a cotton gin around his neck and barbed wire, and they drowned him intentionally. From the time they took him from his house, they took a 14-year-old boy and they murdered him. And you're going to say that this is similar to that? A grown man decides that I'm not going back with my friends. I want to hang out with a woman.
But he wasn't. Katie, the last woman that allegedly was with Mr. Nolan, Katie said that he left on the boat. So you're wrong, Mr. Tatum. Also, one of the friends, their parents is a judge. You know how much pull a judge has and how much stuff that they can keep quiet? You can't act ignorant and naive to that. These kids are not poor kids. They got bread and they got enough bread to keep information enclosed.
Her being white is irrelevant because you ain't seen a single picture with Nolan with any black women. Where is a single black girl in any of this? He don't have no options but to be with a white woman. You don't see a
That's cap. Mississippi, stop. Stop the cap.
I haven't seen a single picture with Nolan with black women.
So now we talking about his selective cup of coffee? No, let's talk about why is the autopsy being sent without his body parts, and why is it taking so long for the results of the first autopsy to be released?
This ain't the 50s. And to interject that is a spit in the face of Emmett Till's mama, who had to have an open casket. And if you Google it, some of y'all can't stomach what you're gonna see. I'm telling y'all, dude, it made me so mad to think about somebody would even compare this to Emmett Till. It's a disgrace to do that. It's unjustified. It's unreasonable. That was a kid outside of his own will who could not defend himself with grown men who took him. I'm pretty sure Nolan could whoop half of the kids that were out there. And y'all act like he just a flim, like they beat him up and killed him. I mean, I think that they'd had a hard time doing that. I think somebody know what happened to Nolan. I think drugs and alcohol may have been a factor, might have, but ain't nobody just beast mode in Nolan. That don't seem very accurate. And why nobody talking about where's his black friends? I don't know where that's at either. Is there more to this? Let's play a little more.
Wow, so you feel like the dynamics between Nolan Wells and Emmett Till is similar?
Well, the dynamics are the same. He's with a white woman, or allegedly said something with, or however you view it, with a white woman, and there's a suspicion that white men killed him. And that was the case with Emmett Till. He so-called whistled as a kid. 13 was he? Whistled so-called the woman at the store. White woman says he whistled at her. What happened? White men killed him. And that's why I'm making that analogy. But it could altogether be untrue. But I'm making the analogy as a possibility. And that is the case of my thought processes.
I just think I'm trying to diagnose what he said, but I think it's unfair to make that comparison. This was like, we're post-racist. We're in a post-racist society, in my opinion, meaning that most altercations are not about race. Most altercations are about people being stupid and not getting along with each other. We live in an environment where the black kids have no choice but to be with white women. It's not shocking.
What? What is this man talking about, bro? The black kids have no choice to be a white woman because he stays in Mississippi and it's nothing but white people. So you're saying that Nolan is the only ninja in Mississippi and he can't find... Like, what are you talking about? You're talking about shit that's irrelevant, bruh. Let's talk about the facts. And the facts is that Nolan Wells was found 48 hours after he was partying with a group of friends and nobody saw anything. If he wants to dip his, in some snow, that's his business. But to talk about his dating options, like, bro, that's irrelevant news, Mr. Tatum.
It's a lot of black and white people married today. It's not shocking for black. I just don't think the idea that a black kid with a white woman is so strange in a city where all your friends are white and y'all all dating and messing with the same chicks. It's the vitriolic behavior of interracial communication in the 50s and in 2026 is in two different worlds. There's a lot more going on with the Mathis interview, but I got to get... I appreciate you guys. I'm sorry I had to run from the show today. I'll try to do my best to keep you up to date on the story, keep you up to date on what's going on.
That's how it happens.
It's in two different worlds. There's a...
To the edge of an island where...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I found this woman being weird on the internet, so I decided to add this clip into the live stream. Y'all let me know your take on her insight on the case. Crazy work.
If you know anything about islands, at the corner point tip of an island, when there's a channel, when the tides switch, it makes the currents very strong. At the tip of these sorts of islands, it always drops off. There's a shallow part and then there's an abrupt drop. Gets really deep, happens all the time. I've seen it firsthand. I've worked on the beach as a lifeguard firsthand, had the radio, was able to hear when there were reports of people drowning or almost drowned or whatever. That's how it happens. People fall in all the time. They get carried away in the current. They panic, go under for like 45 plus seconds, and it's over. Not that complicated, not that deep. But that's not good enough for these people. Because of a concocted rumor from a group of people who hate our guts. They hate white people with a passion. And what they hate more is the fact that white people aren't lynching them. The fact that white people aren't out killing people. It's like, I don't know how many times to explain how normal this is. How many times this happens. Up in North Myrtle, where I used to lifeguard, there were people that would die every year. And it was almost every time they died, it was at the end of the shoreline where there's the channel that goes out to sea, and the other side of the channel goes into the marsh and the wetlands and all these waterways. And when the tides would shift, the water would get extremely rough. The current was very swift. They had to have a specific lifeguard stand up there stationed. They had several people up there. They had ATVs because this was the danger zone. Because it drops off.
So this woman is saying that Nolan Wells was passed away. He was deceased by natural causes. And he drowned. But God forbid, if this was the same person that's talking, if it happened to one of her friends or somebody who she was close with, would she keep that same energy? Talking about, I was a lifeguard for X amount of years, knowing that the throat is missing, lungs are missing, stories are inconsistent. Katie McCormick, the last woman seen with Mr. Nolan, talking about he left on the boat, but now the friends talking about he was never on the boat. With all that information, you still say that he passed away by natural causes?
Abruptly, it gets really deep, and people lose their footing. They get into water overhead. They get a big swift current, and they're gone. That's how it happens. That happens all the time. There was an old Asian lady that died in the marsh. She was out walking. I believe it was early morning before anybody got on their stands. And she went down to the marsh. I don't know what she was doing, but she wound it up in the marsh because the tide was coming in. She lost her footing. Water fell out from under her, and she was sucked into the marsh. And they recovered her body. There was an old guy who was just swimming around, just putting around. Same thing happened. There's a slight rip current. The water, the sand drops off. You get off your feet and you panic. It's like they call it the silent killer because they're not out there like in movies. You know, you see it when people are drowning. You see it.
If he was drowning, how come nobody saw him drown? He was just by himself with no witnesses, and there's 1,000 plus people on the island. But we already addressed that. The reason why there was no witnesses was because he was far away from the island. He was on a boat. That's why nobody saw anything. But they want us to believe that he drowned, but nobody saw it. So Nolan wasn't on the boat. He was on the island. If he was on the island, Katie would have saw something. If he was on the boat, Tristan and Warren and his other friends would have saw something, but nobody saw anything.
And you immediately clock it. It's not people splashing or screaming help. It's they panic. Their body kind of like shuts down. Their mind stops working, and they are going like this. They're like not even trying to swim, and they panic. I have pulled so many people out of the surf doing that exact same thing. People drown all the time, and it's not even like what you would expect. It actually kind of blows my mind.
Karen Lamb 2434 says a 16-year-old drowned yesterday in SW, Florida. I think that's Florida. He got caught in a rip current in front of family. See, the thing is, and rest in peace to that 16-year-old that passed away yesterday. But what makes that different from Nolan is that people saw. There's no assumption, that there's no accusation, that there's no guess. People 100% knew how that 16-year-old passed away. People don't know how Nolan Wells passed away, but he is gone. How are we supposed to know something and they take away his lungs that would give the results if he was drowned or not? Why would they take away his throat that would potentially show that he was choked out? Why would they withhold the first autopsy? These questions are in the air, but they want the public just to move on though, right? Oh, move on, even though Nolan Wells' autopsy shows that he has bruises in the back of his head, but Mr. Tatum wants to talk about, oh no, it was this discoloration. He's not that light-skinned to have discoloration in the back of his head, bruh. Discoloration, bro?
And how easy it is to drown. It takes a couple seconds. It takes like 45 seconds for this to happen. And it happens all the time. And I've seen...
Craven, yes. That is exactly what happened. Nolan Wells drowned without any witnesses. That's what's official. That's what's out. He passed away, and they talking about he drowned. And he was found 48 hours on the shore of Horns Island.
It all the time. I had 28 rescues, and they were all people who literally, if I would have got in there, they would have drowned, despite the fact that they're really close to shore. They just panicked, they got swept off their feet, and it got too deep and they got scared and their body stopped functioning. And you have to run out there and pull them in. It's the most simple thing, but these people do not care about explanations. They don't care about the truth. All they want is this narrative that white people are killing blacks, and that's all they care about. That's literally all they care about. They don't care about the truth. In fact, they are...
Craven. Yeah, people pass away all the time. But Nolan was with friends. He was with a girl, and there's 1,000 plus people on the beach. So you can't go drown with 1,000 plus people, and you was with a girl, and you had your close friends around you, and nobody saw you, bro. Then when they finally get your body, they find bruises in the back of your head, throat missing, lungs missing. Like, come on, bro. Then they don't want to release the first autopsy, man. Too many red flags. If everything was fluid, if they released the first autopsy, if they already gave us the blood work, how can we accuse anybody if they are being more than transparent with us, but they're hiding information? Why are they hiding? Why did the kids delete their social media? Why are the kids pulling up to Officer Tatum podcast, but they can't show up to the funeral? Why did the friend of Nolan say that Nolan Wells is not fully black? He's mixed with Asian. Nah, bruh.
going to actively cover up the truth. They're going to disregard the witness statements. They're going to disregard the statements of these boys, and they are going to persist in hounding this family until they get bored. Clearly an accident. Okay? So basically, don't be pushing a conspiracy theory that this was a murder if you know nothing about what you're talking about.
But if the same woman that's talking, if had any impact in her own personal life, she would not keep that same energy, and I could put bread on that. They want to say, yo, move on, but if it was their own, they wouldn't be quick to move on.
You've never been to an island. You don't know how it works. You've never been...
Craven said they left social media because of accusations without the evidence. But they did it in less than 48 hours. They did it immediately. They all got lawyers. One of the kids' parents are judges. Too many... Craven, of everything that I listed, too many red flags. Pictures found of him shirtless, but they said he was fully clothed. Can you explain that? Why was he found shirtless, but they said he was fully clothed? Explain that. Nobody knows anything. Stop the cap.
On a boat, you don't know how that works. Ben Crump, you think he goes to the sandbar? You think Ben Crump goes out on the boat with his friends and they drink on the island with hundreds of other people? Do you think he...
Craven said they did an autopsy. Yeah, the autopsy hasn't been released, Craven. It's only by the second autopsy paid by Colin Kaepernick that was read by Mr. Hooked on Phonics, Ben Crump, that we got any type of evidence. And from the evidence, the man's throat is missing. Absent. His hyoid bone. Yeah, I thought they was trolling when they said his throat was missing. No, his throat is missing from his body, and his lungs is missing. Why is that? So, Mr. Craven, too many red flags, bruh. They're talking about he was fully clothed, but he's shirtless. Katie talking about he was on the boat. His friends are talking about he was on the island. Too many red flags. And I'm showing you the evidence on the screen, and you're talking about his lungs are missing. Bruh. At this point, I'm going to have to hide you from the channel. Thank you for contributing to the chat. But I'm showing you, I'm displaying you, I'm not making this stuff up, and you still somehow have a rebuttal. You're out of here.
Knows how that works? Do you think he even knows what a bilge pump is? Do you think he knows anything about boats going down and accidents happening? No, he doesn't care. His mind is...
Isn't it crazy work how people are so quick to defend Nolan's friends, but somebody that's unalive, throat missing, stomach missing, bruises in the back of the head, this, that, and the third, and still people can't see injustice has been done. Crazy work.
Fixated on one thing. This is racism. I must prove this. I have irrational hatred for us. I have irrational hatred, and it must be substantiated by something.
Goddess says, exactly, get him out. I should have got him out a long time ago, but I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Show them the evidence and they still want to tell you otherwise. As if I'm the one that drew up this autopsy. As if I'm the one that took away Nolan's throat away from his body. They still wanted to argue. It's like, oh no, his throat wasn't missing. His stomach wasn't missing. And you show them pictures. Nah, bro, you're lying, bro. His throat wasn't missing, bro. All you can do is plant the seed, man.
Or else I just come across as a complete psychopath. And their only issue is that there's not enough white people out there whacking blacks. That's the problem.
Yes, I know you probably did not expect to see me, but I had to come on because I wanted to acknowledge all of your love, your support, your kindness that you guys have been showing me. I wanted to, answer each and every one of you, and I probably will at some point. I will at some point, but right now it's just, everything is so heavy. Everything is so heavy. Just been going through the motions, I'm a healthcare provider, so I talk about grief a lot. And now to be on the other side of this is, it's a lot. So I lost my mom a few years ago, and that was hard.
Our condolences to the mother, the family of Nolan Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for my time. Thank y'all for being in the chat and participating in the polls. Let's go to the polls before we get out of here. We got 500 plus votes in the building. 68% says Nolan friends. Tatum is pandering to Nolan's friends, and 32% says no. Respectfully, you are entitled to your opinion. Make sure you subscribe to this platform. Hit the bell notification so you will be notified when I do go live in the building. I'm your host, HC Picks. I'm out of here.